everybody. Welcome to Culloden Museum in Battlefield. My name is Judy, and along with Jenny and Charles, we're volunteers here at Culloden. I'm going to show you how the plaid was folded and worn at the time of the battle. But this presentation is slightly different because it requires someone from the audience to help and get dressed up. So, who's going to volunteer? Oh.
He will.
Yeah? That's fine. Okay. So the history of the plaid goes back many hundreds of years. What they would have done is, as a family, a clan, they would have raised the sheep, they would have collected the wool, and then they would have dyed it. And depending on what time of year it was, would depend what colours they could create. They would be very muted, very much sort of keeping up with the local flora and fauna, so they would disappear into the background and wouldn't be seen. I will pass the fabric around. This is what the fabric would have been like, not like the modern Culloden fabric. As you can see, it's pretty rough. It would have been quite warm, very waterproof. So once the fabric was dyed, it would then be sent to the weaver to weave the fabric. And for a plaid, you needed 9 yards of fabric, which is almost the full length of this room, and it would take a year just to make one. So this was a very valuable piece of clothing. The only other piece of clothing they had was a linen shirt, which came to below the knees. It had a flap on it, which would have pulled up and tucked into a belt, and that would have acted as the underwear. So, we get down on our hands and knees. There, that's it. And we'll start pleating the fabric. So if you lift it up and pull it back, and we'll just keep going. So back then, this would have been a one-person job, but because we're doing this on carpet, it's actually really difficult with one person. They would have done it on a flagstone floor or a piece of grass. So we'll just keep pulling and we'll keep moving forward. It takes a strain off your back. So after Culloden, there was many things taken away from Highland society, and one of them was wearing the plaid. The other was speaking Gaelic, playing bagpipes and gathering in groups. But after Culloden, quite a lot of the Jacobite men were sent to trial. And one of the sentences that could have been imposed was 7 years of penal servitude, either in the Americas or in the Caribbean. Or they could have joined the government regiments. And one of them very famously is Scottish. And they were set up in 1715, and it was called the Black Watch. And their job primarily had been to police the Highlands for the government. And they would have worn the plaid. So that was their two options. So the plaid in the Americas and the Caribbean and also in the government army was still worn. So if I can get you to lie on your back, on the fabric,
Okay.
with your knees
Okay.
just at that clean level.
Okay. This?
Yeah, if you move it up a little bit, that's it. Yeah, and if you pop your hands up, I'm gonna wrap you up. So the modern kilt, the way you see it today, really didn't come into existence until the reign of George IV and Queen Victoria. It was decided that Scotland was going through a slump in tourism. It was still seen as a wild and woolly place. So along with Queen Victoria and people like Walter Scott, people like that, they would try and make Scotland a sexy place to come on holiday. So the modern kilt, the way you see it today, came into being, and along with Walter Scott, who wrote these beautiful Waverley stories, people started to come back to Scotland, because prior to that they'd been going to Europe and Africa on these grand tours. And that's when the modern kilt, so the way you see it today, came in. So if you go to the art gallery in Edinburgh, the main one, there's a picture of George IV in all his finery, and that's worth seeing. So that's the beginning of it. So if you can go up and down, pretend you're on the catwalk, and you can give us a big 12, so we can see all the beautiful pleats. So you can see what we've done. We've created a double layer of pleats, so it'll keep your bottom warm, especially when you're spending most of the day and night outside.
Yes.
So, at night time, what they would have done is they would have had an extra 2 yards of fabric, so it would go right over the head. It would be like a sleeping bag or a onesie, and then they would use their targe, their shield, as a pillow. But you'll notice there's no pockets. Back then, pockets were difficult to create, so what they might have done is wear a little pouch like this, and this was the forerunner of the sporran. If not, what they could have done is fold the fabric and just tuck it in like this into the waist. So you can put your hand in there.
Oh, yeah.
And today, when people buy fabric for Plaid, they would just do this, and then they would put their mobile phone in there. So we're going to do some more folding, and you'll see it coming to what you. I'm just going to leave it there. To what you recognise as the Plaid. There we go. So if you got them down there. So you can see I've just tied it with a piece of fabric. But what they would have done is they would have put this ring over the end. So imagine if you had 2 extra yards of fabric, you could create a big loop and then put this through the loop. Because what you don't want to be doing is destroying the weave of the fabric. Because remember, this has to last you a lifetime. You're not going to get another one. And if it falls to bits, you have to sew it up and patch it. So they would have just used this. They wouldn't put pins or anything in. So the next thing we're going to do is give her a bonnet. Again, made of wool. They didn't waste any part of the animal. So can anyone tell me what the emblem on the bonnet represents? You're nearly there. You're nearly there. You're in the right direction.
The jackpot.
Yeah. So this is the dog rose or the white rose of Scotland. It's a symbol of the Jacobite cause. As you go around the museum, you'll see lots of roses on the wall, and there's also glassware in the exit corridor there, and it's got roses on it. And what would have happened, to start with, it was a secret society, so they would have had it somewhere on their clothing, and they would have shown it when they went to meetings. But you have to remember, here at Culloden, a third of the government army were also Scots. They would have been wearing the plaid. So to distinguish between the different measurements, they would have worn the white cockade on their bonnet. So you pop that on. Yeah, the front.
The front, okay.
So there we go. So now we're going to give you some weapons.
Yes.
This is a bit people always like. So this is a Taj, a shield. It's made of wood. It's covered with leather. And this one's got a pattern on it. So this would be someone quite well off. And it's also got a boss on it, which they could have put a spike into. There's one with a cabinet on the left from the back of time. And they would have been detached and put into here. The back of it would have been covered in deer skin, especially this part of the deer. It's very fluffy, and this is what they would have used for their pillow. And it would have given them some cushioning. So this goes on your left arm. You weren't allowed to be left-handed back then. Your right hand had to be your dominant weapon arm. So you always wore the Taj on the left. So if you open your hand and rip it,
Yeah.
okay. Now, if you hold it at that angle, and if you turn around, that weapon now disappears. So what would have happened was they would have run to within 50 yards of the front line, fired one musket shot, threw the musket away, and then got these weapons ready, and then they would have gone in like this with the spike, and then up across the throat.
Oh.
Because the weapon the enemy would have been looking at was the broadsword in this for your right hand. So there you go.
You're looking.
Yeah, so you can have a wander around.
Let's go. I'm not sure, but we try. Pretty heavy. Like they need to be. I don't know how they put it to the throat. Like yes. But the movement must be pretty secure. They need to learn it.
But you have to remember back then they were doing manual labour the whole time. So their muscles, shoulder muscles, were much bigger than ours. So these weapons wouldn't have weighed very much to them. Plus they were carrying their packs and everything as well. So the last thing I will show you is how it is taken off without being unfolded. They occasionally washed. If they did wash, it would just be from the neck up. They wouldn't worry about it from the neck down. But they kept it on most of the time, but when they did take it off, there's a way of taking it off without the pleats coming around. It was interesting. That's fine.
There you go.
And there you go. And then that would have just gone on the end of the bed or across the trunk. And then just picked up and put back on again. So I'd like to thank you all for coming.